Okay, so Carol, first time she spoke, she said that terrorists that are drone strikes are dispersing the terrorists, causing them to leave the areas that the drones are more heavily, more dense strikes are happening off to areas where we're not striking. So it's scattering the terrorists, it's ruining their operations, making it harder for them to plan. Though that is true, I would say that the scattering of them causes them to disperse and make it more harder to target these high-value targets. Hundreds of Al-Qaeda members have fled to battlefields in Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere. These operatives bring with them the skills, experience, and weapons needed to turn these wars into fiercer and perhaps longer-lasting conflicts. We're doing little to assure that. We're doing little for long-term improvement. A lot of what we're doing is for the now, just trying to make sure that we're not getting attacked right now. When state power is exercised in the sky, not just through strikes, but also through surveillance, it leaves a vacuum to be filled on the ground. Rather than bringing adversaries to heel, these operations undermine the weak central government's legitimacy and create a vacuum in which state was incapable of delivering basic law enforcement and justice services. These people that live in Yemen, that are being attacked by these drones, they feel like they feel betrayed by their government, really. I think that's the right word for it. Especially because their leader is actually communicating with the U.S. and communicating with strikes. You know, the leader of Yemen doesn't have a lot of support in Yemen, and he is not very well liked by the people. So right when the U.S. leaves Yemen, if we stop our what we're doing there, he's probably gonna get overthrown. There's gonna be a lot of chaos that goes on in the Middle East, especially in Yemen, once we decide to leave, which tends to be what happens a lot. We don't plan for the future. Obama's option of counterterrorism only policy focused on specific enemy and largely rules out large-scale, long-term counterinsurgency operations. Obama's counterterrorism policy signals that the strategy is aimed at protecting the homeland from this one enemy, not at creating more stable areas through counterinsurgency or intervening through broader conventional military engagements. So even though the drones do make it safer for troops and make it safer for us, it is creating a lot of hostility out in the Middle East, and it's not a good long-term resolution. Also, they were saying that the terrorist bombings are more complicated than just the cause of drones. There's a lot that goes into making someone into a terrorist. Well, though that is true, there are a few cases where terrorists have actually admitted to their bombing was a retaliation for this leader being killed. And one example is the first purposeful retaliation is typified by the events of the 2009 coast bombings of CIA Camp Chapman, and more recently Al-Qaeda's attack earlier in 2012 on a liquid natural gas pipeline running through Yemen's Shabwa province. The motivation behind both these attacks has been cited as the unremitting presence of and specific attacks from U.S.-operated drones. So, I would just like to conclude that even though terrorists aren't created solely by drone strikes, it definitely is one of their factors that motivates them. You know, if you live out in the middle of nowhere, your whole family's been killed, your way of life is over, and this group comes, hey, the people who did this, we can help you fight back at them. You know, I'm sure you'd be really excited to actually take part in that. And also, our operations are not good for long-term improvement. They're short-term, and drones alone will not be able to save the Middle East.